Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, to the latest edition of Cageside Speaks. My name is 14 Fitzpatrick, and for today's show, we're doing something a little bit different today for this Easter weekend wrestling holiday. As many of you know, spring is a wonderful time when the flowers are blooming, the sun is rising, and temperatures rise as the winter snow melts upon a new season of wrestling. It's also the time when everybody decides to get out of their hibernation and complain about WrestleMania for endless amounts of time. But we're not going to do that today, as we're going to be focusing on the wonderful pilgrimage that is indie wrestling. We're going to be talking about 3 different promotions today on this edition of Cageside Speaks: New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and Evolve. And with me today are a returning guest and a new debut for Cageside Speaks. First up is the #1 president of the Timothy Thatcher fan club, Reverend Kane.
I don't know about president, but sure.
And making his Cageside Speaks debut is the co-chairman of the Timothy Thatcher fan club, Rancho King.
Hey guys, what's up? Yeah, I think that's fair. Co-chair, co-president.
So first, it's really great, that we get to talk about indie wrestling today. But first up, we're going to be talking about the main event angles and wrestlers for New Japan's Invasion Attack 2016 card on April 10th. And this is sort of a continuation of what we did on the New Japan podcast a couple months back. And I think both of us, you and me, Rev, said, they were going to be fine, if they lost a bunch of guys. And that exact thing has happened. Because it's forced them to push people that they should have been pushing in the first place. Starting with the main event of Kazuka Akida versus Tetsuya Nato. And we didn't really talk about Nato a lot last time, so could you describe him to the audience? What has he done to himself for the last year to make himself as, tranquilo as he has?
This guy was sort of groomed to be the not the next guy, but the 1A, the Macho Man to Okada's Hulk Hogan. And that fell flat. And he was just kind of churning along as a guy who I always thought maybe had the best match on an even card, but I never looked forward to those matches. And then he became ingovernable down on a trip to Mexico, and decided it was funner to take naps in the ring, just generally not give a shit about anything. And he found that last spark of magic that made him a real main event player.
Yeah, I mean, before I was really uninterested in anything that Nato did in the ring. He had horrifically bad luck with injuries, and they kept putting him with TNA wrestlers like Jeff Hardy, so that didn't exactly help. But that last tour he did in CMLL really helped him define his character as this lazy, angry at the world, sort of the CM Punk of New Japan character, where he's banded together a bunch of guys that felt were overlooked and has made magic happen, as they say. And now Okada's also kind of developed his character a little bit more since Nakamura left. He's become the leader of chaos.
Yeah, now he's actually the coolest guy in the stable, which helps his character presentation a lot.
Yeah. And also he's kind of he's become more of a face than he has in the past. Now that he's the ace and Tanahashi's doing Tanahashi things, like playing air guitar. Although he's done a very interesting move as the president of the stable now by bringing in Hiroki Goto. Could you tell me what exactly has happened there?
Goto was a very sad boy, and now he's still sad, but he's sad in chaos.
I'm sure Yuji Nagata must be very upset about another guy leaving the New Japan Setsugun stable, which basically means, the face stable, to go join those ruffians over at Chaos. He's going to be, I think, in a multi-man match on the Invasion Attack card, which will be...
He's a tag with Ishii against the other two members of Wrestling Governables, Bushi and Eva.
Yep. Yeah, Evil's a very interesting case as well. He's a guy that they're looking to push this year, I think. That
Hmm.
should be really fun. And then we also have the guy. Speaking of Ishii, he lost his Never title to the next guy we're going to be talking about, Kazuyori Shibata, who's had something of a bit of a resurgent year as once again New Japan has forced their hand and has to push this guy because everybody else left. He
Yep.
actually officially signed a contract with New Japan, ending his tenure as a freelance wrestler to do so. So are we possibly looking at the main event of Wrestle Kingdom, what was it, 13? Or is it Wrestle Kingdom 11?
Well, 11 was this year, and I don't think both of those guys would be in the main event next year because I think Okada still has to solidify his position as ace. I don't know that he's necessarily going to hold the IWGP title straight through until then, but he's definitely going to have it at the end of the show again, one way or the other. I think.
Mm-hmm. So is it
Uh,
the so it's the possibility of Nado winning the belt here and then Okada winning like the G1 tournament and then cashing in the 1-4 briefcase again to regain control of New Japan against the Ungovernables?
that feels entirely possible. Although I feel kind of like if Naito wins here, it'll be a shorter reign, maybe to the minute or so, and then though who else would be his match at Wrestle Kingdom? Question: Tanahashi again? I don't know. But only because Naito holding the title all the way from Invasion Attack to Wrestle Kingdom next year seems a bit counterproductive when you're trying to make Okada to be the new ace.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And, besides, you also have another main event caliber heel who's really revived his career with the Intercontinental belt, Kenny Omega. Wow, who
Yeah,
knew he had it in him?
that's amazing. After a year of junior title matches that were, they were always good, but they were never what I knew he was capable of. Moving back to heavyweight has really been a boon for him.
I mean, especially considering that this guy has been considering, leaving the wrestling business on occasion several times, and this is finally the opportunity that he wanted so badly to be in the heavyweight division, to feud with guys like Nagata and Goto and Ishii, instead of being stuck in matches with Guguchike Taguchi.
Mm.
No one deserves that, to be honest.
No, that's a guy I actually know about, Kenny Omega.
Mhm.
And not much of his New Japan stuff, but I just recently saw him back in December when I went to PWG. He had a match with Will Ospreay. Wow,
Yeah.
that was amazing. I mean, I've never really seen I've seen a little bit of Omega on the Access show,
Mm.
so I've seen a little bit of him, but I saw the first full match I ever saw was that show was at PWG live, and it was like, wow, this guy's amazing. Like, why haven't I been watching him for years?
It's weird
And
because
Os and Osprey is excellent as well. I mean, I think that match, probably the match of the night, as far as one on one. I mean, the main event was completely different, multi-man, hardcore, people fighting all over the place. But as far as a one on one match, that was the match of the night.
I
Sounds
mean,
like
that's got to be that's a very interesting experience being in a live crowd in an event. Where is this at? Like Reseda, California, PWG.
Yeah, yeah, Reseda, California. It's just basically Los Angeles. I mean, it's a little suburb, just outside of Los Angeles.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
must be really cool to be in like a tiny little environment like that and being in a. I've seen PWG and it's like, wow, this is really interesting. How did they pack this many people into this sardine can rec hall to do this show?
it's crazy. Like I got there at 3 o'clock for 8 o'clock bell time, and there were people who'd been there since noon. And the people lined up to put their chairs out, sit there all day, get that first dibs on those front row seats, and there they are. And people just come in, and I believe who was Justin Roberts was there, just in the crowd, in the audience. Who's the other one? Lisa Marie Verone, Victoria, she was there. And they just come, they buy tickets, they come in, they don't get any special treatment. So it's quite a scene.
Yeah, it must be really cool because I know that the California indie scene has really seen a revival over the last 15 years, and I'm glad that all these people are getting work and doing the profession that they love to do. And speaking of Osprey, Rev, what are your thoughts on Rev? Seeing as he has a match with Kurdashev for the Junior Heavyweight Championship.
Uh, it's kind of a similar situation to the Okada Naito match in that Kushida is really who they're setting up as the ace of the junior division. And Osprey is a guy who may well, I mean, he's signed a 1-year New Japan deal, so he's not going anywhere right away. But he's a guy that, kind of like Ricochet, where they gave Best of the Super Juniors to Ricochet in 2014. But they couldn't really capitalize on it right away because he was busy with Dragon Gate and went to Underground, as Prince Puma. And he's back now, and is one half of the IWP Junior Heavyweight Tag Champs. But they kind of didn't have a perfect opportunity to capitalize on him winning because he was really breaking out in demand. And I kind of feel like they're going to hesitate on Osprey for that reason.
They always are cautious when it comes to bringing in new talent, especially Gaijin talent, because they really don't know them at first. They don't know their personalities, and they don't know what their work ethic is, because it's very important in Japanese culture is to have a solid work ethic. And basically, they're going to test Osprey out to see how he does. And, well, as you said, Ricochet is back because of, he's in demand, and because, the rumors have it that he's not long for Lucha Underground, so it's going to be very interesting to see what he does. Another guy that's really happy to be in New Japan is Michael Elgin. He recently signed a 2-year deal with New Japan, and he is having the time of his life. So describe, Rev, what has Elgin done to change what the wrestling critics have been saying about him for like the last few years? That
Japan has somehow just beat a sense of escalation and match flow into him, because that was my biggest criticism of him, like when he was Ring of Honor champion, is he had the exciting feats of strength. He had his matches were never bad, but it was very station to station, spot to spot, and get my shit in, to borrow a phrase from Mr. Brian Cage. And in Japan,
his sometime tag team partner. So yeah, that would make sense.
And but in Japan, he's a machine. To further the comparison, and he just has great matches every night. And a switch flipped. I don't know if it's just him being in Japan and recognizing what a big opportunity this is for him, and putting his nose to the proverbial grindstone, or I don't know, Geto took him aside and said, "You work good, or I'm not going to bring you back."
Well, he had a bad match with Tanahashi at a Ring of Honor show, so I think that kind of lit a fire under him. And Tanahashi is known as the real shooter in Japan. The Bullet Club are not the actual shooters. Hiroshi Tanahashi is, if you take a look at the transcribed version of his podcast, because he is one of the most honest individuals in wrestling right now when it comes to
no prisoners.
Takes no prisoners. He complained about Ring of Honor's lighting, and guess what? They have new lighting for their taping shows. Because of that, I think. And also, I think because Elgin had suddenly responsibility on his hands, because he recently had a child, he's married, has to be the breadwinner of this family now because Mischief can't work because of the post-pregnancy and whatnot. And this was his opportunity to make it in Japan, a place that he loves working in, wanted to work in for years, and now it's like a dream come true for this guy. And I'm really happy.
That's a big part of it, is that he hit like a turning point in his life. Because even just when he was Ring of Honor champion, or shortly after, he was talking about, oh, maybe I'm going to get into baseball finally. And you don't expect a guy who's looking to maybe get out of pro wrestling to be as good as he is. So yeah, I think that and his family and everything, and being in Japan, it just came together, and he stepped up his game, and we're all the better for it.
Yeah, and we're all better for it because now we have, for sure, barring injury, Elgin's in the G1 this year, and he had a phenomenal performance in B block last year. Basically, it was the savior of that entire block. So, what are your thoughts on Elgin, Rancho?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say he's able to sort of indulge his sort of bad habits at PWG when he teams with Cage. They just kind of do, like you said, just spot to spot. But they're very impressive though. I mean, him just throwing Gargano and Champa, just throwing them both of them at the same time, suplexing two guys, no big deal. Holding them up for a minute or so, whatever.
He did
I mean,
also, yeah, he also did lose his mullet of power, so that also kind of did have a detrimental effect on him.
it does, and the other thing I like about him, outside of the ring, sort of, is the guys like this. Listening to other podcasts, he's kind of a legend. The way people talk about him, like everyone seems to have a Michael Elgin story about the time he laughed like a maniac in a movie theater, or chopped someone for no reason, or some crazy bar fight. And I mean, Big Mike's a legend, right?
The man makes his pro wrestling punch noises when he's in actual fights. That I still can't get over that.
That's dedication. That's dedication to your art, and that's dedication to your craft, and I really respect that.
Oh, when they finally get him when he finally gets on Ethan Page's podcast, that's gonna be a just epic episode. And he already said it's gonna happen. It just gotta when he gets back, I guess, from overseas.
Well, I hope Mr. Page is ready.
He's told a few of those stories, and I mean they're the best. But you can tell that he's kind of like a little trepidation, like I don't know if I want to say that because I don't want him mad at me.
And I'm not sure his home improvement bill covers Michael Elgin damage at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if that's insured. Well, that could be a natural disaster, right?
I mean, he could tag with Tugboat and actually become officially a Natural Disasters member. That could happen.
That sounds like something for the King of Trios tag gauntlet.
Yeah.
That's true, and plus, and Page doesn't have his partner Josh Alexander to back him up anymore. So.
Mm-hmm. And let's see here. Next up on the list is a dream tag team that Reverend Kane has been wishing for years. Rev, the Sons of Ming are in New Japan now.
Yeah, boy. Gorillas of Destiny.
Yep. They're finally pushing Tonga.
Yep. He really deserves it. Camacho is a guy going back to he's Tangaroa now, he's Camacho in WWE. But going back to his tag run in NXT with Hunico against the Ascension, like the Ascension are not good, and those matches weren't great, but Hunico and Camacho were entertaining tag team every time. And I always thought it was a shame that Camacho just got branded as Hunico's Cholo buddy.
Yeah,
and
the guy that
himself.
he actually was the forefather of the, bring the guy to the ring thing with the bicycle, which Bad Luck Fale would do with Finn Balor. Kind of, actually. And so they're going to be facing against Great Bash Heel, the stable that just simply refuses to die. They have been active for almost a decade now for the Tag Team Championships. How interesting is that match?
I guess as excited as I am for the team, I'm not super excited for the match. I mean, Hanma is obviously a super worker. He is really good every time out. And Makabe is not. And I don't know, something about the unit makes me have a hard time getting excited, even though like their tag matches against Gallows and Anderson have been good, and I'm sure this one will be good as well. It's just hard for me to get excited about it. But hopefully Gorillas are destined to win the title, and then we can open up to some matchups that I will get excited about, like the Ten Cozy matchup, or if Goto and Ishii stay together, or Naito and Evil, or some Monopolies, Tanahashi, all the other heavyweight tag teams I have.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too. And there's also that potential fantasy matchup of if they finally decide they have enough of Omega and the little ankle biters, the Young Bucks, and decide that, you know what, we're going to crush these fools.
Oh yeah.
We're going to be the ones leading the charge now.
Gorillas
No
and
more.
Fale versus the Elite is a hell of a trios match. I know what happens.
Yeah, especially if Mr. Bad Luck decides to join up with his Samoan Chigean brothers and decides to finally crush Omega and the Bucks. That's like dream match for me right there. So anyway, we talked about it a little bit, but the New Japan and Ring of Honor now have this working relationship with one another. How would you say that it's working out so far? Because I kind of feel that it hasn't been that good, honestly.
Yeah, like War of the Worlds 14, that was awesome. Seeing those New Japan guys in running. Dream matchups like Steen Nakamura and everything. And even up to War of the Worlds last year, it felt like it was just added value from both sides. But now the New Japan talent are over in ROH so often, and they outshine the native ROH talent so much, and not by virtue of being across the board better performers necessarily, but by virtue of New Japan is clearly the senior partner, and New Japan guys are not going to take falls unless they absolutely have to, and it sort of becomes a foregone conclusion. And like, I believe it was at the anniversary show, Hiroki Goto beat Dalton Castle, and I was probably booking Dalton Castle aside, that was not a match that Dalton should have been losing, because Goto was just coming off, I think, his 8th IWGP Heavyweight Title Challenge loss. And, like, there was no harm in putting your younger guy over him, but New Japan hold the cards, so Goto went over.
Well, Gendo is angry, obviously, at Ring of Honor because of the fact we mentioned Evil earlier in the broadcast, and that's the main reason why New Japan is putting their talent over the Ring of Honor guys, because they sent Watanabe out on the excursion, and they had explicitly have said to American promotions in the past, do not mess around with our talent. And, well, TNA did that with Okada, and they're no longer sending New Japan talent out to TNA to do excursions anymore because of that. And fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me is the classic, word to describe this relationship. Now Ring of Honor is doing the same thing that TNA was doing with the New Japan talent. And it seems like the only promotion that is even remotely doing anything with New Japan excursion talent right is CMLL with Kamatachi, and now with Fujin and Raijin joining up the ranks of over the 100+ wrestlers that are in that promotion now.
Yeah, it's telling because when Kamatachi and Evil left on excursions, one of them went to CMLL and one of them went to North America in general, but the idea was to give him experience in ROH specifically. And now both Komatsu and Tanaka went to CMLL instead of splitting them up and sending them to ROH. And if you're not going to send your young boy on an excursion over there, you're not going to have your mid-card guy like Goto drop a loss.
Yeah, exactly. And, because they didn't do anything with Evil when he was over there. He
was in like 4 or 5 6-man scrambles. He got a TV championship match toward the end.
Yeah.
He's it's not like he sucks. He's a colossal talent that could have been used very effectively, and they didn't.
Yeah, because, I don't know, why they let a rambling maniac like Delirious as the booker is kind of a question mark in of itself. And now we have a situation where, because of this New Japan thing, their top prospect tournament that they recently did was not for the TV championship like it's been in the past, but for actually the ROH World Championship?
Yep, because Ishii is TV champ, and they ain't going to have Ishii wrestle some undercard guy that ain't even signed to a contract.
Yeah, and then that undercard guy is Lilo Rush. He's
Mhm.
actually a very interesting name that they have picked out. Somehow snatched him away from Evolve, which is a bit surprising, considering that Evolve has been snatching every single good talent that, Gabe has scouted in the past.
Although don't count Gabe out yet because Leo is appearing at the May 6th Evolve,
Mhm.
and so he may well end up signing a WWN deal before he signs a full-time role.
Yeah, that's a possibility right there, because, depending on how things go in Ring of Honor and depending on how things go with Evolve, he has two choices here. You either go with Ring of Honor and you don't get that WWE deal because WWE has a bit of an issue with Ring of Honor right now because of a Kevin Steen action figure they decided to release, which got them on Triple H's bad list as well as Vince's list. And that's never a list to be on, honestly.
Do you have any idea how many of those figures they've sold, or how many they could possibly sell to make the damage that it's caused worth it?
A billion?
I
1
mean,
billion?
you, it never made much sense to me.
It was a petty move. A petty move. I don't know what it is about these promotions. They do the pettiest moves imaginable just to they're like immature 5-year-olds, that try to reason with one another instead of actually getting an adult to stop this fight. You know?
From Ghetto's the kid selling counterfeit Pokemon cards to everybody in the playground.
Yep. And speaking of Dalton Castle, this is a guy that really should be getting pushed better, and
Yeah.
really should be used better in general. Because
Yeah, I'm not saying put him in the main event right away, but he should be in the TV title scene right now. He probably should be champion by now. Or I don't know who would be a logical tag partner for him, or you just put him in some kind of title contention instead of constantly having him be like third from the bottom, getting big matches because he's worked Goto, he's worked Lavender, he's had matches against Adam Cole. He gets good matches, but nothing ever comes of it because he never gets a chance to work his way up the card.
it's always in this perpetual. It's a perpetual energy machine of we're going to keep you here because you're popular, but we're not going to push you because we want to push Steve Cornino in a match with BJ Whitmer. Or we want to push 37-year-old Silas Young because he's the one guy that no one wants to sign but us. And keep Silas One winning over Castle, which is the biggest
It's a shame because that was a perfectly logical feud. That would have been a great opening feud, but Castle should have won decisively after like the third match, and he should be on the bigger and better ones.
Yeah.
I kind of lost interest in that feud. I was really into it because I love Castle, but it just seemed to go on and on.
Yeah, it was
on.
like the second or third hottest feud in ROH like last June, and now it's still happening.
Yeah.
Oh God. Well, the interesting thing about, or one interesting thing about Castle is, ROH has they recently did an agreement with PWGs similar to what they did with New Japan, and Castle makes his big debut at PWG January or February, I can't remember which one, and he loses to Chuck Taylor in the opening match. And it's like, this guy can't catch a break.
Maybe he's an asshole.
I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping he lost to Chuck because he's going to be around PWG for a long time, so he'll eventually work his way into there. But I mean, jeez, I can't even think of any time I've seen him win a match.
Yeah. When was the last time that happened?
It's like the first Silas match.
The first Styles match, okay. It's like it's this excessive, okay, he's proven himself. He doesn't really need to pay what wrestling people call paying your dues anymore. Okay?
He toiled in the little indies for like 4 years. Like that should be good enough.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing him in I think it was like a 10-way championship scramble at actually one of those CCW shows. And like he wasn't the party peacock yet. He was just a dude, but that over the intervening like year and a half between that and seeing him in ROH for the first time, like put the whole package together.
Yeah.
Did you guys know he's a like well before he like professional wrestler, he was like an amateur beach wrestler.
Huh.
There's like all these videos on YouTube of him. That's like this thing. It's a real like competition, amateur wrestling, but it's done on the beach.
Huh.
It's kind of not obviously not like Olympics, but
But
I don't know.
yeah, but,
People take it seriously, and I was like, what? This is crazy.
yeah, it's kind of perfect.
Yeah, why
Yeah.
not, right?
It's safe because it's sand that you're landing on. I've heard about those kind of competitions because I think they used to do them on ABC's Wild World of Sports back in the day in the 1990s, I think. They also broadcast competitive frog jumping as well, so
Hey, Calaveras County Fairgrounds. That's where the frog jumping happens. That's been since Mark Twain.
yep.
Sorry, that just comes up.
That's
Local stuff.
that's cool, you know, that those cultural events happen in that region. You know, I watched the frog jump event ages ago when I was a kid. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, they do one also every year on the state capitol lawn over here. I've been to a few of those.
Oh, that's cool. So anyway, let's hope that Donovan Joldak listens to the frogs and tries to jump his way up the card and doesn't have the castle effect hit him this time because he's another young guy that they should probably be pushing.
No, he at least gets storylines where he is allowed to get over on people. Like I'm not sure it's aired, so if you care that desperately about any other spoilers, leave your stream for the next like 15 seconds. But he had that angle where he knocked Truth Martini out so bad that people were worried that Truth had legitimately broken his neck. Like they would never let Dalton Castle get over on somebody like that. But Dijak's allowed to. So I think his prospects are still good.
I mean, I really am hopeful because he seems like a generally good person in wrestling. You know, I've heard about his works in charity, and you know, he's a solid, good wrestler. You know, they've had some good young talent there. They've also got Adam Page, who is a solid guy. I mean, when Adam Cole eventually leaves, and he's gonna leave in the next few years, because he's done pretty much everything in Ring of Honor at this point.
And
Page,
Hunter has his phone number.
yeah, Hunter has his phone number. Yeah. So Adam Page seems to be the next logical guy to fill in those Adam Cole shoes, to me.
I mean, he's already like 80% of the way there, I would say, but he just needs. He's another guy, just kind of needs like a definitive feud where he gets to go over on somebody, and maybe this thing with Whitmer will eventually do it.
Yeah, that's potential right there. So now we will focus on Evolve. And our first person that we will be talking about is the Evolve World Champion for now at this point, Mr. Timothy Thatcher. Rev, I hand the floor over to you.
Simply put, arguably the greatest technical wrestler working today. If not the greatest, then like 1A, 1B at the absolute least, if you must put like Super Junior over. Just insanely good, not only at holds and grappling, psychological aspects of wrestling and something like that, but his facial expressions are the thing of legend. Like he's I like to think of him as the ultimate conclusion of the like Bret Hart, Daniel Bryan lineage, where you know the guy's really good at wrestling. Maybe they don't quite speak so well, but they make up for it in their natural charisma. In that, like he speaks not at all, really. I mean, he can cut a promo in the mechanical sense of he can say words to establish a match or accept a match, but it's not his thing at all. He does it all in the ring, and he has the natural charisma and the facial expressions to back it up.
So, what are your thoughts on Thatcher, on Rancho?
Well, I mean, yeah, he's definitely one of if not my favorite. I mean, he's from Sacramento. I've seen him many times live. I mean, I don't know what else to add to what Rev said. I mean, I think what I've kind of thought of him is there's sort of three components to his formula. You know, the submissions, you know, the holds, the strikes, because he can, you know, he can throw a strike as good as anyone, and I've seen him use it very effectively when he gets the wrong kind of crowd. It's people are, these holds are boring. It seems like whenever that is starting to take hold of the crowd, all of a sudden he'll just crack someone with a good headbutt or something. And then the third one is the selling, like you said. The guy's off the chart. Like everything that's done to him, it looks like serious, like it hurts. He's focused on sort of conveying that message to the audience that this is really happening. I'm really getting, you know, my arm is really painful. I mean, I've seen the guy sell an arm injury like post match. I mean, his opponent tried to raise his arm as a respect. He's like, no, 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 not that arm, the other arm. I mean, he's just so into what's going on in the ring, and I wonder if that's part of because he has so little outside of the ring. You know, going to the shows that he's on, you never see him before. He doesn't have a merch table, so there's no he's not there before. You don't see him. He doesn't stick around after. He doesn't do social media. So everything is kind of what's in the ring. That's what you get from him. And I think if he tried to change that, I don't know if his success would be the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I imagine that Thatcher is off like right now training in a barn, preparing for his match against the giant stoner caveman Matt Riddle in this Evolve Guard at this point, and
He's rowing upstream on the American River right now.
yeah, he's rowing upstream, doing training, watching Otto Wan's tapes, doing whatever he can to figure out what kind of hold that he needs to do to beat Riddle. I first saw Timothy Thatcher at a premiere free show that they did on YouTube of this Embrace the Grind tournament, and I saw him work against Jeff Cobb, and it was a fantastic match. And then I saw him work against Joe Graves, the Soul Fighter, and oh my God, this guy's selling is off the charts. His facial expressions are fantastic. He knows how to respond to an audience, whether they are going to cheer him or whether they are going to boo him. And he looks like a wrestler to me. He doesn't look like a bodybuilder who's just doing this for fun or money. He looks like an actual wrestler that just got off of work, working down at the farm or the steel mill, and goes and does a wrestling show like back in the old days of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, even back in the 20s. He's a throwback wrestler, but he's one that's interpreted to modern times, so it feels fresh.
Yeah. There's a big dose of MMA groundwork in his style. It's not all classical holds. He does a lot of work from guard.
Yeah,
that show you watched, the Embrace the Grind. That's the one I was at that show, sitting next to Dave Meltzer actually, and he loves that guy obviously. So that whole show was quite an experience just because being the style they were working and being able to sit so close, you really get a good sense of what they're doing, the sort of the little almost like mini battles over holds that are going on at all times. I don't know if you guys could pick it up through YouTube, but when I was there, I was like, this is a totally different experience from any wrestling match I've seen.
Yeah, it was. I mean, those sort of Tim Thatcher matches always kind of draw me into that sort of deep focus, but the way it was presented there, it invited it, rather than it being just a side effect of me liking that style and all that.
I liked it for a couple of different reasons. I liked it because there was no English commentary, so there wasn't any distraction from watching the actual wrestling that was going on in the ring. The second part was that ring announcer. He's one of the best indie ring announcers I've heard in a long time, and was able to convey the sense of importance that this Embrace the Grind tournament had for this promotion. This little indie promotion out in California does this, and not even WWE can get that right most of the time.
Yeah, I haven't been to I didn't go to the last show. I watched it on YouTube, but I saw more of him on that one. I was like, yeah, this guy's pretty. He keeps it entertaining at least.
Yeah, they also have a buffet there. That's like even better. You
Yeah,
get
and the tickets are like $10, and you get to sit wherever you want. It's just the problem for me is it's just a little too far from where I live, and it's kind of like a 2.5 hour drive. So I
Right.
can't go every time, but that November one, I knew that one was going to be special, so I went, um, and then maybe I'll go to one in the future. It just depends on you know, just depends on the card.
That sounds cool. So let's talk about Thatcher's opponent for the future Evolve shows. Matt Riddle's going to get a title shot again.
Yep.
Because he claims that Thatcher low-blowed him. And apparently Riddle has the same weakness that Brock Lesnar has in that one low blow and he goes down like a sack of bricks, apparently.
To be fair, it was a low blow and a headbutt.
Yeah. So this guy has only been wrestling for like a year?
13 months since his pro debut WrestleMania.
13 months. And this guy is already feels like a seasoned veteran in the ring already.
It's crazy. Like,
Eh,
he might be the most natural pro wrestler I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the free match that Evolve showcased. Who was it that faced him? Was it Hot Sauce?
Yeah, it was the first match of the first series.
Yeah.
From all 52.
hmm And that's a good card there. Evolve 51 is the show that you would recommend to anybody who wants to watch Evolve, right?
Yeah, 45, 51, 56. That's the current Holy Trinity of the. God only knows next weekend shows might change that up.
Yeah, that might actually, because this card looks really nice. We've also got matches with Hero involved and Gulak and all sorts of great guys. So, Rev, could you tell me more about this roster? This is a real wrestling-oriented roster.
Definitely. You have a collection of some of the best technical wrestlers in the world. I said Timothy Thatcher's number one in my mind. Zack Sabre Jr. is number 1A. He's incredibly smooth, incredibly fast. Works a little bit more of a classical World of Sport type style, but works it just as well. You have Chris Hero, who is a large man these days, but still exceptionally talented between those moves. A bit more of a striker, but he can go to the mat whenever he pleases. Drew Gulak and his Catchpoint stable, Hot Sauce Tracy Williams, T.J. Perkins, the aforementioned Matt Riddle. Four of them really good in their own way. Gulak's more of a dry technician. Williams is one of my favorite people on the planet to watch right now. He strings together moves better than anybody this side of Roderick Strong. T.J. Perkins, another one of my favorite guys to watch in the world because he is. There are a lot of guys that are good on the mat. There are a lot of guys that are good high flyers, and T.J. Perkins is both, and there aren't a lot of guys that can do both of those as well as he can. Beyond that grapple crew, you do have some more traditional pro wrestlers. Sami Callihan just came back after his NXT stint, and he's been really on fire. If you did not like what you saw from Solomon Crowe, you watch an Evolve show with him on it, and you'll realize that it was the character or the environment or something else going on. It's not that he was a bad wrestler. All Ego Ethan Page.
Yeah.
Known dickhead Ethan Page, I should say.
Not he's reformed.
He's reforming. That's the centerpiece of one of the Evolve doesn't do a lot of deep stories. It's mostly very traditional pro wrestling. Like, you're the champion, I won it. You want my respect, I don't respect you. Basic stuff like that. But his road to redemption has been one of the more detailed stories they've been telling. He came in the promotion sponsored by Johnny Gargano, and he emulated all of Gargano's worst qualities because Gargano had a legendary nearly 900-day run as Open the Freedom Gate champion, where he repeatedly used the tag rope to choke enemies out. Incognito as part of the Gargano stretch, or Gargano escape, rather. And Page came in and he was like, "That's my ticket to glory," until Johnny Gargano choked him out with the ring rope at 49 in the Hardcore War. And since then, he's been trying to turn it around, but he's come up losing more often than not, and now he's got Anthony Nese at Mercury Rising. And Nese is the premier athlete, that's what they call him. He's everything that Ethan Page is not. You know, he's built, he's got abs upon abs.
Hey,
Oh God.
Steve is looking better.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Page is shaping up. Like the fat boy taunts from Nese don't really make sense anymore. But
Yeah. Although nothing from Anthony Nese really makes any sense in the first place.
he's got good spots. I like to bag on him a little bit. I would definitely call him the worst guy on this roster, but that's not a huge indictment because this roster is incredibly talented.
Yeah, everybody.
You can hide him, with the right opponent.
Yeah, definitely.
Or put him in a tag team, but it seems to be that there's a stipulation on this Evolve Tag Team Championship match that the losing team has to no longer tag.
Yes, that is correct. And it's a stipulation where normally you see a stipulation like that and you're like, well, clearly one of these teams is still going to be a team and the other team is not, but both teams are kind of on thin ice at this point because Gargano and Galloway are a solid unit, but they have a consistent issue where one of them is almost not quite making the show because you got Johnny Gargano, NXT superstar, and Drew Galloway, TNA World Heavyweight Champion.
Yay!
As tag champions.
2016.
Yeah. Eventually that has to fall apart, and then Nese and Conley, the Premier Athlete brand, have had their own personal issues, and I don't think they're long for the world as a team either, so it's very, the center can't hold, but neither can the left or the right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like they have that now Paige is mixed up in this tag team stuff. So it really adds another layer to it. Like, how's that gonna play out?
Yeah, like he's been trying to get Gargano's respect back ever since he lost him.
The slowest burn ever.
There's also the third party of you have SoCal Val, who's the head of this athletic brand stable, and you have Caleb Connolly, Nese's partner, who ended up in a match with Timothy Thatcher that ended up like 15 minutes too long, you'd say?
Yeah, I like Conley a lot. I think he's got the potential to be a real star someday. I like to describe him to people as Dolph Ziggler if Ziggler could actually sell instead of just bump, and if Ziggler had actual good offense. But, they got a similar look. Their voices sound even kind of similar. It's just that Conley is young and has all the potential in the world, and Dolph is a guy that probably should have taken the deal New Japan were offering.
Should have gone to New Japan, Dolph. They probably actually would push you.
Yeah. He'd probably be in the Kenny Omega seat right now. So.
Yeah. Or ending up facing against the literal human wrecking ball known as Tomohiro Ishii.
Yeah. He'd definitely be right in one of the title scenes, and he'd be pushed to hell. And maybe he would have, dug deep and found what made me a fan of him in the first place years ago. Well.
And they're also going to bring in, for the Mercury Rising show, recently released from New Japan, Kota Ibushi is in a six-man with Ospreay and, who else?
It's Gargano, Perkins, and Ibushi. They were all three of them on Evolve 1. Versus Will Ospreay. I have it right here. I should actually look at it. So I'm just trying to remember. Will Ospreay, Marty Scurll, and Tommy End.
Oh, those two are really interesting. We haven't talked about those two yet. Tommy End is from the Netherlands, and he's a really good wrestler.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's a very good striker. And he's in a team with Chris Hero. Heroes eventually die. And he's very much sort of like a smaller version of Chris Hero in that he has the strikes. He mostly depends on the strikes, but he can really bring the mat work. And he's just a really good all-around talent. Like I said, it really is, if not the best roster in the world right now, one of.
Especially since they're now bringing in guys from the British promotions, and British wrestling has had a revival in the last 5 or so years, where you have all sorts of these young guys who are really, really into their characters, but also really good at wrestling. It's that wonderful combination. Like you said, Marty Scurll, he used to be the party guy, but then he picked up an umbrella, got a pair of glasses, decided to master the cross-faced chicken wing, and become a villain.
One of the most effective transformations I'm aware of in pro wrestling.
Yeah, because I saw him because he did the British Boot Camp with TNA, and he was. I remember seeing him in a tag match with the Blossom Twins against Goddard's and a few other people, and Goddard's missed a spot, and he ended up crashing on the apron ring, the ringside gate.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah. And he's recovered from that and has become this wonderful villain. Go check out this guy's promos. He is fantastic.
I can pinpoint the exact moment I became a fan of Marty Scurll. I was watching Progress last year, and if you don't watch Progress, you should probably drop $7.50 on their streaming service and have yourself a ball, because it is the best storytelling in pro wrestling in the world. But I was going through the archives there, and I saw him, like, the third match of his I saw in Progress. It was like chapter probably 20, 21, something like that. And I realized something, that every time somebody gets him in a fireman's carry, he grabs the hand and wishbones the fingers to get out of it. Every time. And it's as simple as that. Any young starting wrestlers who may be watching and want me to be a fan of yours, just, wrench a unique body part to get out of a hold every time. And I'll pay attention. And I will like you.
Yep, working the fingers. Rancho, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Marty is a guy. Probably first time. I mean, I heard of him for a long time, but just saw him in December. I saw him. He worked back-to-back shows over a week against Thatcher, first at PWG, and then later that week at All Pro Wrestling in San Francisco, which I went to that show, and they worked the match there. That one's on YouTube for free if anyone wants to check it out. APW Christmas Chaos 2015. It's on there. But yeah, he's just really can do a little bit of everything. I mean, he's got the crowd sort of psychology, character work. And you can see him in the ring, and I mean, he's a villain, so he's not. I don't know, does he do? Before he was a villain, was he kind of a high flyer or something?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, he was a party guy.
So he's changed his style, which is always something I enjoy, is when people they sort of change alignments, and also their moves change as well. Like, that's how it should be. You can't be.
Yeah, so much of character comes from your work in the ring. You can't just make it all words.
Yeah, exactly. You can't, be doing, sort of like top rope moves and expect people to boo you, because that's generally not how it works.
Yeah. Actions speak louder than words a lot of the time. In a theatrical performance like that, you have to get the audience's attention to get them invested into the match, so that you have them in the very palm of your hands, instead of, hoping and praying that they'll come to the show just to hear your words. But words can also work too. Promos will get you your attention to go to the event, but it's the action that has to sell the audience on you, your character, and what you're doing in that ring. So we have, and we didn't really talk about Zack Sabre Jr. A lot. So what, besides being the best technical guy in the world, what else is there about him that you like, Rev?
And that's a large part of it, because I'm a very simple man, and if you are a top shelf technical wrestler like that, that's all I need. But this segues into an interesting thing that they've been doing with him. They started at 56 and 57 this past weekend, and they'll be finishing up this next weekend at 58, 59 in Mercury Rising, in that, like, Zach has had before the series, Zach had a 3-4 record in the ball, 3 wins, 4 losses. And for a guy that's as good as him, that doesn't seem right. And he acknowledged that. And the idea is that it's all because he's too humble. He's too nice of a guy. He doesn't have that killer instinct that you need to push over the edge. So what Evolve Management came up with is a Best in the World Challenge series, because they recognize that Zach has the talent to claim that mantle, just as CM Punk and Bryan Danielson did before. But he's missing that bit of cockiness. Like, they excerpted a quote from Bryan's book about how he called himself best in the world after beating Roderick Strong, retaining his title against him. And he felt that, like, he actually felt that was true in the moment. He was cocky enough to believe that that was true, that he was the best wrestler on the planet at that time. And so it's a total package, though. And the idea is they set up these 5 matches. He had Gargano at 56, Gulak at 57. He's going to have Ospreay at 58, Matt Riddle at 59, and then Chris Hero at Mercury Rising. And the idea is if he can beat all these guys, maybe he can grow that swagger and grow that ability to call himself the best in the world and mean it.
Yeah, that's really very interesting there, because I think actually he has worked. It kind of sounds like they're trying to turn him heel to me.
There's definitely a potential element of that.
Yeah, that's definitely a potential there. You know, because they have a bunch of British guys right now. Ospreay seems to be the only clear-cut face at this point, whereas
Yeah, I'd have a hard time buying Will Ospreay.
Yeah, because he's a pure high flyer, and you have Marty, who is a heel, and I believe that that Sable has been in heel factions before in British wrestling, so I think he can play a heel. But it's going to be very interesting to see how this storyline plays out, and this Mercury Rising show looks really interesting to me. You know, you also have one of the more interesting matches on the card in my mind is Taylor Made is the Shine Champion, and she's fighting against Evilise.
Yep.
Okay, so who wins there?
It's hard to say, because Shine has all those pressures of being the little fish in a big pond, you know, like they can't afford to bring the international talent in all that often, and Evilise has a price tag on her. You know, she's working Lucha Underground, and she has all these other opportunities, so they can bring her in to have a title match. I'm not sure that they can bring her in regularly enough going forward. I don't know what Shine's dates coming up are, if they've even announced them, but I know Lucha Underground's going into Season 3 tapings now. So, and I hate when I look at a match from this point of view, looking at it from the business end, and not going, well, do I think she can beat her? Because, of course I do. It's Evilise. She's one of the best, certainly one of the best female wrestlers in the world, and one of the best overall, but
I mean, the trouble is that they have been breaking up Valkyrie, and unfortunately, it's Made. She's good, but she's not her partner.
Yeah.
She's not Allison Kay, who's like who would be the person I would prefer in that spot, you know, as the Shine Champion. But they decided to turn her face. You know, so.
The way Shine's booked, I don't know why anyone would really want to like commit to them long term if they didn't have an option.
Oh God, yeah, the Shine booking is just as bad as Ring of Honor on occasion. The one lone match that somehow escaped the wrath of the booking was Saraya Knight versus Allison Kay. That's probably because Allison probably stuck a machete down the middle of the table.
That was amazing. That was pillar to post.
Yeah, I would not want to be like the person that had to tell those two Oh yeah, it's gonna end in a interference or some stupid ending. Like, can only imagine their reaction to that.
Yeah.
And
The both of them probably said no at the same time, and then proceeded to go skipping and cause some form of horrible evil act to somebody on their roster in celebration. So anyway, so let's wrap up with the final thoughts here. Rev, you go first.
Uh, the Indies are strong right now. I think, we were a little down on ROH, but I think the greater Indies as a whole are doing really well. Evolve is set to have its biggest crowds ever next weekend. They're breaking the 1,000 mark. Um, the little Indies are healthy. You can't go if you come by the Daily and hang out on a Friday night, Saturday night. Odds are somebody will have some stream of a little tiny indie like Premiere or like Mr. Hughes WWA4 or freelance wrestling.
the Gold Rush.
Yeah, everybody is streaming. It's a real awesome environment right now, and as disappointing as WWE can be, the rest of wrestling is more than rewarding enough to make up for it.
Okay, your final thoughts, Rancho.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to sort of echo a lot of what Red said. I mean, indie wrestling, at least to me, it seems really strong right now, from top to bottom. I mean, we just talked about the three sort of major promotions, but like we said, that's just sort of scratching the surface. I mean, there's PWG, that's a major one for not having pay-per-views or anything like that, just running out of that little building with their DVD sales and VOD now. But I mean, they're still a major player in indie wrestling. I mean, here in Northern California, we have like at least what 3 or 4 promotions that are running, and they have guys like Thatcher and Jeff Cobb and the Reno Scum. We bring guys from down south like Joey Ryan, Willie Mack, some of those guys coming in. I mean, it's really it's 2016. It's a what a time to be alive, right?
Yeah, it's a time to be alive. Yeah, the indies are out there. For those of you who are listening to this broadcast who are a WWE fan or a TNA fan or anybody who's looking to get into professional wrestling in the fandom, there are options out there. There are live streams of professional wrestling everywhere on YouTube right now. You've got iPay-per-views, you've got live streaming, all these new technologies that were previously unthinkable like 20, 30 years ago are now available for access for promotions to use, to get people to watch their events, to see all of these hidden gems in professional wrestling. And it isn't just the United States. You have Japan with DDT Pro doing their DNA shows on their YouTube channel. You have, as Rancho said, all of these California promotions are doing indie live streaming. You have Evolve, you have, even though we were down on Ring of Honor, as Rev said, there's some good talent there. It just needs the right kind of booking. It's not an issue of if they're talented or not,
Yeah.
The independent wrestling scene is out there, and it has open arms for you to come in and see if you like this or not. You're not obligated to be chained to WWE just because they're the biggest fish in town. You have options. And this podcast here, over this last hour or so, we've explained and told you all of these wonderful different promotions of professional wrestling, because professional wrestling isn't just WWE. Professional wrestling just is. And I've been very, very thankful to do this podcast on this wonderful Easter weekend. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll see you for the next edition of Cageside Speaks, in which we will be talking about WWE with their 2 big events, NXT TakeOver Dallas and WrestleMania. And we'll see you then. Have a good day.